Before anything happens in your day, before the noise, before the pressure, before the world begins to demand your attention, there is a quiet moment, a moment most people ignore. But it is in that moment where everything begins. Not your actions, not your results, your thoughts, because before you act, you think, and before you think clearly, you speak to yourself. Most people never question this. They wake up and immediately react. They check their phone, they absorb information, they allow external noise to shape their internal state. And by the time they realize it, their mindset has already been decided for them. But the Stoics understood something powerful. Your morning thoughts are not random, they are a choice. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius would prepare himself every morning, not for comfort, but for reality. He reminded himself that the day would include difficulty, challenges, people who would test his patience, and instead of hoping for ease, he trained his mind for strength, because he knew something most people ignore. If you prepare your mind early, you control your response later, and your response shapes your life. This is where your transformation begins, not in what you achieve, but in what you tell yourself. Because your inner voice becomes your direction, and your direction becomes your life. If you want more Stoic wisdom that strengthens your mindset daily, subscribe to the channel, because everything starts with how you think. 1. You are in control. There is a truth that immediately changes how you experience life. Not everything is under your control. No matter how much you try, you cannot control people. You cannot control outcomes. You cannot control every situation. And when you try, you create frustration, stress, exhaustion, because you are fighting something you cannot win. But the Stoics offered a different path. The teacher Epictetus built his philosophy around a simple idea. Some things are within your control, and some things are not. Your thoughts are within your control, your actions are within your control, your responses are within your control. Everything else is external. When you truly understand this, something shifts. You stop wasting energy on what you cannot change. You stop reacting to everything around you. You stop feeling overwhelmed by things outside your influence, and instead your focus becomes clear, directed, intentional. You begin to invest your energy where it matters. On your actions, on your mindset, on your behavior. This is where power comes from, not from controlling the world, but from controlling yourself. A strong person is not someone who dominates everything around them. It is someone who governs their own mind. Because once you control your thoughts, you control your actions, and once you control your actions, you begin to shape your life. Each morning, when you remind yourself that you are in control of your mind, something powerful happens. You become calm, grounded, focused, because now you are no longer reacting to life. You are responding to it, and that difference changes everything. If this message is making you feel more in control of your life, subscribe to the channel. Because clarity begins when you focus on what is truly yours to control. 2. I will act regardless of how I feel. There is a silent habit that holds most people back. They wait. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until they feel motivated. They wait until the moment feels right. But that moment rarely comes, and even when it does not last. Feelings are unstable. They change constantly. They rise and fall without warning. If your actions depend on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. This is why most people start and stop, start again and stop again. But the Stoics did not rely on feelings. They relied on action. The philosopher Seneca warned that we imagine difficulty far more than we experience it. We build resistance in our minds before we even begin. We convince ourselves that something will be too hard, too uncomfortable, too overwhelming. But once we act, we realize that most of that resistance was not real. It was created. This is why action matters. Action cuts through hesitation. It breaks the cycle of overthinking. It creates momentum. Each time you act without waiting, you prove something to yourself. That your actions are not controlled by your emotions, that you are capable of moving forward even when it feels difficult. And over time, that builds confidence, real confidence, not based on results, but based on your ability to act. A strong person does not wait to feel ready. They act, and through action they become ready. Each morning when you tell yourself that you will act regardless of how you feel, you remove delay, you remove excuses, you create movement, and movement creates progress. If this message is pushing you to take action today, subscribe to the channel, because discipline is what turns intention into reality. 3. I will embrace discomfort. There is a quiet decision you make every day. Most of the time you don't even notice it. You choose what feels easy, or you choose what helps you grow. And most people choose comfort, not because they are weak, but because comfort is attractive. It feels safe, predictable, effortless. After a long day, comfort whispers that you deserve rest, that you can delay effort, that you can avoid difficulty just this once. But that just this once becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes your life. Because every time you choose comfort over effort, you remain the same. The Stoics understood something most people resist. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the path. The teacher Epictetus believed that difficulty is what shapes character, not ease, not convenience, but challenge. When something feels uncomfortable, it is often a signal that you are stepping outside your limits, a signal that you are growing. But instead of recognizing this, most people retreat. They avoid, they delay, they distract themselves. And over time they become trapped in familiarity, a place where nothing changes. But a strong person does something different. They lean into discomfort, not recklessly, but intentionally. They understand that every challenge carries opportunity to improve, to adapt, to become stronger. At first, discomfort feels overwhelming. It creates resistance. It tests your patience. It makes you question yourself. But if you stay with it, if you continue despite it, something begins to change. It becomes manageable, then familiar, then normal. And once it becomes normal, it loses its power over you. This is how growth happens. Not through ease, but through repeated exposure to difficulty. Each time you choose discomfort, you expand your limits. Each time you face challenge, you build resilience. Each time you continue despite resistance, you strengthen your mind. A mentally strong person does not seek comfort as a goal, they seek growth. And they understand that growth requires discomfort. Each morning, when you remind yourself to embrace discomfort, you shift your perspective. You stop asking how to avoid difficulty and start asking how to use it. Because difficulty is no longer something to fear, it becomes something to leverage, something to build from. If this message is pushing you to face what you have been avoiding, if it is encouraging you to step outside your comfort zone, subscribe to the channel, because growth begins the moment you stop choosing what is easy. 4. I will stay consistent. There is a reason most people never reach their full potential. It is not because they lack ability, it is not because they lack knowledge, it is because they lack consistency. They start strong, full of energy, full of intention, full of motivation. But over time that energy fades. Life gets in the way, distractions appear, and slowly they stop. Not all at once, but gradually they skip a day, then another, until what once felt important becomes distant and eventually forgotten. This is how progress disappears. Not through failure, but through inconsistency. The Stoics understood that real change does not come from intensity, it comes from repetition. Daily effort, repeated action, consistent discipline, because consistency builds habits, and habits shape identity. A strong person does not rely on how they feel, they rely on what they do repeatedly, even when it feels small, even when it feels insignificant, even when results are not visible. They continue, because they understand something most people overlook. Progress is not always visible in the moment, but it is always happening beneath the surface. Each time you show up, you reinforce a habit. Each time you repeat an action, you strengthen it. And over time, those small actions create change, real change, sustainable change, because it is built slowly, intentionally, consistently. A mentally strong person trusts this process. They do not rush it, they do not abandon it, they commit to it. Each day becomes an opportunity, not to be perfect, but to be consistent, to show up, to act, to move forward. And over time, those small efforts compound, they build momentum, and momentum creates results, results that last, results that matter. Each morning when you tell yourself that you will stay consistent, you remove pressure, you stop focusing on outcomes and start focusing on effort. Because effort is within your control, and when you control your effort, you control your progress. If this message is helping you stay committed, if it is reminding you that small actions matter, subscribe to the channel, because discipline is built daily. 5. I will become better than yesterday. There is a silent pressure many people carry, a pressure to be perfect, to have everything figured out, to move faster, to achieve more. And when they fall short of that expectation, they feel like they are failing. But the Stoics did not chase perfection. They pursued progress. Because perfection is an illusion, it creates pressure, it creates hesitation, it creates fear of failure. But progress is different. Progress is simple, it is measurable, it is achievable. It is built step by step, day by day. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius never expected himself to be perfect. He expected himself to improve, to refine his thinking, to correct his actions, to grow stronger in character. And that is what made him powerful, because he was not focused on becoming flawless. He was focused on becoming better. Each day, in small ways, that is the shift you must make, from perfection to progression, from comparison to self-improvement. Because comparison creates distraction. You look at others, you measure yourself against them, you lose focus on your own path. But growth is not about others. It is about you, who you were yesterday, and who you are becoming today. A strong person measures progress differently. They do not ask, "Am I ahead of others?" They ask, "Am I better than I was before?" This question creates clarity. It removes pressure. It creates direction, because now improvement becomes personal, intentional, sustainable. Each small improvement matters. Waking up earlier, staying focused longer, acting despite hesitation, choosing discipline over comfort. These moments seem small, but they are not. They are building blocks, and over time they create transformation. A mentally strong person understands that change is not immediate. It is gradual. It happens quietly, in small decisions repeated daily. And because it is gradual, it requires patience. Patience to continue, patience to trust the process, patience to keep moving forward even when results are not visible. This is where most people give up. They expect fast change, quick results, immediate improvement. And when it does not happen, they stop. But a strong person does not stop. They continue, because they understand that growth takes time, and time rewards consistency. Each morning, when you tell yourself that you will become better than yesterday, you remove unrealistic expectations. You stop chasing perfection. You focus on improvement. And that focus creates momentum, because now every day matters, every action matters, every decision matters. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You begin to act where you once hesitated. You begin to improve where you once remained the same. And over time, something powerful happens. You become someone different. Not instantly, but gradually. Not dramatically, but consistently. And that transformation is real, because it is built, not forced. A strong person does not need to change everything at once. They change one thing, then another, and over time those changes compound. They create habits, they create identity, they create results, and those results reinforce belief. Belief in yourself, belief in your ability to improve, belief in your direction. This is how confidence is built, not through external validation, but through internal progress. Each time you improve, even slightly, you prove something to yourself, that you are capable, that you are growing, that you are moving forward, and that belief changes everything. Because once you believe in your ability to improve, you stop doubting your ability to succeed. A mentally strong person understands this deeply. They do not rush the process. They do not compare their journey. They focus on one thing: becoming better, each day, each moment, each decision. If this message is helping you shift your focus from perfection to progress, if it is encouraging you to improve instead of compare, subscribe to the channel, because growth is built daily, and the more you improve your mind, the more your life begins to reflect it. Your life is not changed by one big decision, it is changed by small, repeated ones, daily thoughts, daily actions, daily habits, and it all begins in the morning. Before the world reaches you, you reach yourself, through your thoughts, through your words, through your mindset. Most people do not take control of this moment. They allow their day to be shaped by external noise. But the Stoics did something different. They prepared, they guided their thinking, they trained their minds. Because they understood something powerful. If you control your mind early, you control your direction later. Each morning is an opportunity to reset, to refocus, to realign, to become intentional. And when you use that opportunity consistently, everything begins to change. You think differently, you act differently, you respond differently, and those differences create results, real results, because they are built on discipline, on awareness, on repetition. This is how you rewire your mind. Not once, but daily, through what you tell yourself, through what you choose to believe, through how you decide to act. If you made it this far, it means something in you is ready. Ready to improve, ready to grow, ready to become stronger. But this is only the beginning. What matters now is action. Take one idea from this video and apply it tomorrow morning. Because that is where change begins. If this video helped you think differently, if it gave you clarity, if it pushed you to improve, subscribe to the channel. Because this is where you build a disciplined mind, a focused mind, a stronger version of yourself. And when you rewire your mind, you rewrite your life. Everything you want begins there.